and welcome to another book. Wow, that looks empty. Let's put someone in there. Not you. Your limbs are too long. Okay, well, this plant looks like it's dying, but... Hello and welcome to another booktube video from me, Martha May Books, and today I have for you my best books of 2020. Yes? 2020. I have so many books for a favourite books video. I was also going to do a worst books video, might still be coming, but I'm not sure anymore because I sat down to think about what my worst books of the year are. Couldn't come up with any. I came up with two, and to make a video about two books, like these are the worst books, is kind of harsh. So unless I all of a sudden come up with loads of books that I hated this year, I'm not going to be doing one. Anyway, let's get into this one because these are the best books. So I have organised these into a stack and order from least best to most best, but they're all the best. And as loads of people have said in their best books of the year video, they could pretty much be in any order apart from the top three, because any other day I would have put them differently. I literally just sat here and went from least favourite to most favourite and just did that as fast as I could because I didn't want to think about it too much. Okay, so the first book that I have is The Burning Kingdoms by Sally Green. This is the final book in the Smoke Thieves trilogy by Sally Green, which follows, it's a YA fantasy, and it follows a whole bunch of teenagers, I think there's 5 of them, on their quest to uncover the truth behind demon smoke, which is traded in their lands as a drug, but has potentially another use. I love this series. I thought this was great and a really great ending to the series as well. The next book is Bone China by Laura Purcell. This book also kind of stands in for both Laura Purcell books that I've read this year. I think that Laura Purcell is going to be one of those authors that I read everything from. I've spoken about this a lot recently, but it follows 2 women in different timelines. One who is a nurse for patients with tuberculosis, and one who is a nurse for the lady who was a nurse for patients with tuberculosis now that she is very old. It's set in Cornwall, it's spooky, it's gothic, it's fun, and I loved it. The next book that I have is a book that I don't have with me. It is 1,000 Ships by Natalie Haynes. This is about the women's side of the Trojan War, loads of different women, all sharing their stories and their sides of the war, and I loved this book. I listened to this on audio and Natalie Haynes reads it, which was brilliant because she definitely put a lot of emphasis into the way that certain characters speak, and I loved it. The next book that I have on this list also stands for the whole series. This was Scythe by Neal Shusterman. I actually rated this book 3 stars. However, I listened to the next 2 books in the series probably within the same month because I had no internet, no TV. I didn't have a radio either when I was having to stay away for a job, and this series was so much of a companion to me through that time. I was really looking forward to getting the books in when I had them on hold and when I could go into work and use the Wi-Fi to download them, and I just really loved this series and thought it was great, and so that's why I've included this book is kind of a stand-in for the whole series. The next book that I have on my list is The 5th Season by N.K. Jemisin. This is a high fantasy dystopian adult series which is set in a world where there are constant earthquakes and where there is a magic system where certain people can summon the power of the earth, but they are massively persecuted and suppressed because of their power, and everyone's frightened of them. I am really excited to continue this series in the new year. The next book that I have might be a bit of an odd one for favourite books of 2020 because it came out very early in 2020 and not a lot of people liked it, and that is Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I've never read anything by Leigh Bardugo before, which I think helped me enjoy this book more. So this is a, what do people call this? Dark academia supernatural story. It follows a girl called, I feel like her name's Galaxy or something like that. Yes. Follows a girl called Alex who is at a really prestigious university in America, and her job is to be in charge of the Ninth House, which kind of keeps tabs on the supernatural clubs at the university and make sure that they aren't doing really bad things, even though they do really bad things, and she just kind of sits by, but making sure that they don't tear massive holes in the universe, basically, and summon loads of ghosts and things, and her job is to protect the societies against the ghosts that they're summoning. I love the atmosphere in this. The other thing is I'd watched about 5 rant reviews of this book before I went into it, and so I went into it with very low expectations and really loved it. The next book that I have on my list is a non-fiction. That's The Five, The Untold Lives of the Women Killed by Jack the Ripper by Hallie Rubenhold. This is about the 5 women that were killed by Jack the Ripper and their lives. It is a saga of each of the women's lives, going from their parents to their children, and also a little bit on their deaths, but not too much, and definitely not in a graphic way. And I really loved it. I really like history about normal people and people that aren't very remarkable. They just get on and live their lives like almost everyone does. I really enjoyed this. The next book on my 2020 best books list is Kindred by Octavia E. Butler. So this is a historical sci-fi novel in which a woman from the 70s, Dana, travels back in time to the 1815, where she is met with the challenge of whether she will save this young boy's life. She does, and then it turns out that he is the son of a plantation owner, but that she must keep him alive. And Dana is a black woman, so she is assumed to be a slave in this time, and I loved it. I really like time travel books. This is the only one that I've read like it, but I would like to read more, where it's not someone in the centre of the story, where time travel is easy and fun and fine and nobody is prejudiced against you. The next book that is on my list is one that I've owned for so long and was frightened to read, and I'm glad that I finally read it, and that is Middle Game by Shauna Maguire. This is about a set of twins who are called Roger and Dodger. One's great at maths, one's great at languages, and they are separated at birth because they're part of a scientific experiment where magical children are grown in labs. I don't really know how to explain it, but they talk to one another with their minds, and it's brilliant. I really liked it. I love the feelings that this had. This had similar feelings to me as Ninth House, kind of dark academia, but not really. I don't know, it was fun. We are now into the top 5 books of the year. The top 3, I know for sure these are them, and they might actually interchange between each other depending on the day and also certain biases that I have. But we're into the top 5 now. The first one for my top 5 is Small Island by Andrea Levy. I read this book in the summer after watching the National Theatre production that was on YouTube, and I loved it. So Small Island is about 2 women, one who is from England and just coming out of the Second World War, and one who is from Jamaica who comes over to England to live, and their experiences during the war and after the war and in England, and how their lives all interconnect. There's also some men involved in this book as well, but I forgot about them. The next book I have is Elantris by Brandon Sanderson. I had already read The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson and a couple of his short stories and really liked it, but I decided to pick up Elantris and I loved this. I thought it was great. It definitely shows that it was one of, if not his very first books that he'd written, but I really liked it. I thought that the story was great. I thought the transformation was great. This is about people who are transformed into death-like state in which any wounds that they have, they never heal. Really interesting. And they all are shoved into a city so other people don't catch whatever they've got. Top 3. Right, the first book on my top 3 is The Confessions of Franny Langton by Sarah Collins. Sarah Collins? I'm not sure. I'm never sure when it's just S-A-R-A, how to pronounce it, because some people say Sarah, some people say Sarah. This is about Franny Langton, who is a former slave turned into a servant for some very cruel people, but also a lady that she loves, and she is on trial for the murder of her mistress and master. I really liked this. I thought it was great. I loved it. It was brilliant. Very gothic. I love gothic historical fiction, especially surrounding murder or ghosts, and this was brilliant. My second best book of the year is Anne of Green Gables by L.M. Montgomery. This was the first time that I had ever read Anne of Green Gables. I had watched Anne with an E, the first series. I couldn't really get on with the rest of the series. This follows Anne as she's adopted by the Cuthberts because they think that she's a boy and she'll come and work on their farm, and then it turns out she's a girl who is fabulous and brilliant, and I loved it. Final book on my list, which, as I said before, massively shows my biases. This is The Viper's Daughter by Michelle Paver. This is the 7th book in the Chronicles of Ancient Darkness by Michelle Paver. The Chronicles of Ancient Darkness was my favourite series from age 10 until now onwards. I love it. It is my version of insert whatever childhood series everybody loves here. I just love this series so much, and it has been rekindled with a new trilogy coming out many years after the first ones. And I just loved it. I'm going to reread this next year before the release of Skin Taker, which is coming out in April and is my most anticipated release of 2021. I just love it so much, and I know that it's massively biased because it's my favourite series. She's my favourite author. It makes me happy. So this is my best book and my favourite series. I'm so excited for next year. I wonder what's going to be the top of my 2021 best books. Thank you so much for watching my 2020 best books. Let me know if you've read any of these, what you thought of them. Were they your best books or were they your worst books? I don't mind, you let me know. And I hope that you all have a very lovely 2021. It's like I'm not going to be there. I will be there.